Good morning or evening, depending on where you are, everyone, and welcome to our webinar. My name is Miroslav Chvolyuk. I'm a partner in the capital markets and mining law at Fasken in Toronto and a board member of the Canada-Ukraine Chamber of Commerce. And I'm very excited to host this webinar on opportunities in critical minerals and mining in Ukraine, which is something I'm passionate about personally and professionally, and we hope all our guests are too. This webinar is organized by Ukraine Invest, the government of Ukraine's primary foreign investment promotion office, in partnership with the Canada-Ukraine Chamber of Commerce, and with support from the Embassy of Ukraine in Canada and the Ministry of Economy, Agriculture, and Environment of Ukraine. Our agenda is going to feature some opening remarks from dignitaries, followed by expert presentations from government, financial institutions, investment promotion agencies, geological experts, and the private sector, focused on Ukraine's critical minerals and mining opportunities, government support instruments, Canada-Ukraine cooperation, and available financing and risk mitigation and risk sharing solutions. Critical minerals is, of course, a buzzword with different meanings for different groups, but unfortunately, the Ukrainian context is a stark example of the importance of strategic raw materials in a rapidly changing global defense and technology environment. So on behalf of all our organizers and partners, thank you for joining us today, and we hope with your participation, you can facilitate the future of mineral resource sector development in Ukraine. On a personal note, as a director of the Canada-Ukraine Chamber of Commerce, I'm very pleased to see this conversation taking place between Canadian and Ukrainian stakeholders. I think everyone here today believes mining represents a significant area of opportunity for Ukraine's economic development and reconstruction, and it's a very natural venue for Canada to participate in. So before we kick off with speakers, just a few housekeeping notes. In this format, for the speakers, there's limitations on moderation. So please try and keep your remarks to 10 minutes, and I'll be jumping in if we try and go, or if we're going over time, so we can all try and wrap up by about 12:10 or 12:15. For audience members, please mute yourself and turn off video, and you can remain muted throughout the presentations. We're going to have an opportunity for Q&A at the end of the program, which you can submit through the chat function or the Q&A function during the webinar. We'll address as many questions as we can, depending on time. And with that, I'm actually very honored to begin today's program with opening remarks from His Excellency Andriy Plahotniuk, Ambassador of Ukraine to Canada. So please, Ambassador.
Good morning, good afternoon to everyone. Thank you all, dear friends, for joining us today for discussion on critical minerals and mining opportunities in Ukraine. Certainly, I'm grateful to Ukraine Invest and Canada-Ukraine Chamber of Commerce for putting this webinar together. It's, I think, the first time when we organize such an important event on bilateral basis with Canadian companies. As we all know, today countries around the world are looking for reliable partners and secure supply chains. The transition to clean energy, electric vehicles, battery storage, advanced manufacturing, and new technologies is creating enormous demand for critical minerals. Ukraine has an important role to play in meeting this demand. Our country possesses significant reserves of lithium, graphite, titanium, uranium, rare earth elements, and many other minerals that are essential for modern industry and green transition. These resources represent an opportunity for Ukraine and for our partners like Canada. As our country moves closer to the European Union and continues to modernize its economy, we are creating new opportunities for responsible investment, modern resource development, and international partnerships. And there is where Canada becomes our natural, reliable partner. Canada is recognized globally for its expertise in mining, geological exploration, high environmental standards, financing, and responsible resource development. Canadian companies have built a reputation as world leaders in this sector. Ukraine does not simply need investors. We need partners who can bring expertise, technology, innovation, and long-term vision. I'm pleased that our two countries have already taken important steps in this direction. In November 2025, the Geological Survey of Canada and the State Service of Geology and Subsoil of Ukraine signed a cooperation agreement that will be highlighted later today. It marked the beginning of a new chapter in Canada-Ukraine cooperation in a sector that is rapidly gaining strategic importance around the world. I'm confident that this partnership will open the door to new opportunities in geological mapping, critical minerals development, investment, and innovation for the benefit of both countries. For Canadian companies, Ukraine offers world-class mineral potential, highly educated workforce, access to European markets, and a government committed to reforms and modernization. Today is an opportunity for all of us to discuss what that partnership can look like in practice? How can Canadian expertise support the development of Ukraine critical minerals? What opportunities exist for investment, exploration, processing, and technology cooperation? I hope today's discussion will help answer those questions and, more importantly, help create new partnerships and new projects in the future. Thank you once again for joining us, and wish everyone insightful and very productive event.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency Plahotniuk, for your remarks and for your continued leadership in strengthening the partnerships between Canada and Ukraine. It's now my pleasure to invite Zen Koptychny, President of the Canada-Ukraine Chamber of Commerce and a long supporter and promoter of resource development in Ukraine from Canada, to deliver a few opening remarks on behalf of the Chamber. Zen, go take it away.
Thank you, Miroslav. Greeting to His Excellency Ukrainian Ambassador to Canada, Mr. Plahotniuk, and good morning, good afternoon, everyone. I hope it's not as wet morning for most of you as it is for us in Toronto this morning, but I'm sure we'll get better along the way. I am pleased to join you today on behalf of Canada-Ukraine Chamber of Commerce. For those who may not be familiar with Canada-Ukraine Chamber of Commerce, our organization has worked for more than 30 years to strengthen business and investment ties between Canada and Ukraine. We bring together companies, investors, government representatives, and institutions from both countries to support trade, investment, partnerships, and Ukraine's long-term economic development. In recent years, CUCC has been especially focused on mobilizing Canadian private sector engagement in Ukraine's recovery, reconstruction, and modernization. Today's webinar is an important part of that work. As we look at one of the most strategic sectors for Ukraine's future, critical minerals and mining. Ukraine has tremendous potential in this sector. The country is home to a wide range of mineral resources that are essential for the global clean energy transition, advanced manufacturing, defense, aerospace, battery production, and modern infrastructure. As countries look to diversify supply chains and secure reliable sources of critical minerals, Ukraine has an opportunity to become an important strategic partner for Canada and other democratic economies. At the same time, Canada brings world-class expertise in mining and mineral development. Canadian companies and institutions are recognized globally for their strengths and exploration, mining finance, engineering, environmental standards, project development, and responsible resource management. Also, we need to mention that Toronto Stock Exchange is the one, I think maybe the largest, maybe I was going to say one of the largest, I think the largest when it comes to listing of mining and mineral companies in the world. And therefore, the financing and legal expertise is here just for you, to help you as investors and as people looking to list your companies in the public market. Also, as we know, in Toronto, one of the largest mineral and mining, what do you call them, PDAC conferences happens every year, and we see from time to time Ukrainian delegation in Toronto. The opportunity before us is not only about resources, it's about building long-term trusted partnerships. It is about combining Ukraine's potential with Canadian experience, technology, capital, and know-how. And it is about ensuring that Ukraine's economy's recovery is connected to sectors that will shape the future global economy. Today's expert presentations will help provide Canadian companies and investors with a clear understanding of Ukraine's critical minerals landscape, the opportunities available, and the practical considerations for engaging in this sector. I would also like to take this opportunity to invite everyone to continue this conversation at the 5th Rebuild Ukraine Business Conference, which will take place on November 26th in Toronto at the Omni King Edward Hotel. This annual conference will bring together business leaders, government officials, investors, and international partners to focus on Ukraine's recovery and modernization across the sectors, including critical minerals, infrastructure, energy, and defense. We hope today's webinar will provide valuable insights and help create a path towards new partnerships between Canadian and Ukrainian companies. Thank you to Ukraine Invest for partnering with CUCC on this important initiative, and thank you to all of today's expert speakers for sharing your knowledge and perspectives. I look forward to the presentations. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Zenko. Eloquent as always. We'll now kick off with the substantive program. We're going to begin with a presentation on government instruments available to support mining projects in Ukraine. I'm very pleased to welcome Marina Hlistun, CEO of Ukraine Invest, and Marina will present the government instruments and support mechanisms available for mining projects. So Marina, please go ahead.
Good afternoon. Do you hear me?
We can hear you, Marina. A little bit of echo if you...
Yeah, because I have a technical issue. And now it's all fine?
That's better, yes.
Your Excellency, Mr. Potechny, thanks a lot for such an introduction. Thanks a lot for the Chamber of Commerce for arranging this very important event, bilateral event. Thanks to Canadian business community for joining it. And I guess it will be one of the first, but not the last, and very systemic things happening to attract and to make Canadian investors and businesses aware of the opportunities in Ukraine. As I understand, you will be helping me, or someone will be helping me with presentation, or shall I share it myself?
You can share it yourself.
Okay, just 1 second then. I'm sorry. Do you see my screen? Тепер звук. Do you see my screen?
Tak, bачимо.
Okay. So let me a little bit dive into the investment landscape and critical minerals and mining in Ukraine. The partnership between sorry. The partnership between Ukraine and Canada is a foundation shift in the global energy and defense architecture. We are moving from emergency to a long-term economic alliance centered on critical minerals. By combining Ukraine's immense resource potential, so-called the European Shield, with Canada's world-leading mining capital and technical expertise, both nations are securing their role in green and digital revolutions. Friendshoring is no longer a theoretical concept. It's an urgent economic and security imperative for diversifying critical mineral supply chains. Ukraine offers vast resources, while Canada could provide leading mining technologies and ESG standards, and has already been providing significantly. Ukraine offers an alternative supply chain based by providing access to lithium, titanium, and graphite, backed by Canada Tier 6 listed junior miners, with integration embeds Ukraine directly into European Atlantic defense standards. The G7 action plan, launched under Canada's leadership, acts as a multi-billion-dollar framework to secure global supply resilience. This plan focuses on accelerating projects worth $4.6 billion by building reliable trade corridors. It maps over 20 critical investments designed to insulate the aerospace and defense value chains from hostile trade blockades. Ukraine's resolution 845 fundamentally reforms the domestic regulatory climate by harmonizing mineral definitions with strict international transparency norms. The law divides deposits into 11 strategic and 28 critical minerals crucial for national defense and high-tech industries. Access to these resources is now commercialized openly through transparent production sharing agreements and electronic auctions frameworks. Ukraine possesses a remarkably diverse mineral resources base, ranking among the top global producers of both metallic and non-metallic raw materials. The country ranks second globally in gallium, fifth in germanium, and sixth in titanium production. Out of 120 commonly used minerals, 117 are found here across 8,800 industrial-grade deposits, establishing 11+ million mining industry foundation. Ukraine holds massive, high-quality underground reserves that position it as a potential primary supplier for Europe's sustainable energy transition. Ukraine holds the continent's largest estimated uranium reserves, over 100,000 tons, and ranks second globally in manganese, 140 million tons. Its lithium reserves, over 500,000 tons, are the third largest in Europe, and its vast graphite deposits are verified as EV battery grade. The alliance with Canada's Focus Graphite showcases how Ukraine is moving away from raw extraction towards high-value processed industrial goods. A joint 14 million R&D investment utilizes advanced electrothermal purification technology to process Ukrainian graphite. This initiative directly covers the battery gap to reduce Western reliance on Chinese synthetic anodes. Institutional energy resilience is secured via a long-term 12-year strategic alliance with Canada's Cameco, stabilizing the nuclear energy sector. The deal ensures a 100% stable supply of uranium fuel components for Energoatom's 9 nuclear reactors through 235. Crucially, it includes Canadian technical expertise to modernize domestic mining and safely manage radioactive waste life cycles. Digitalizing and upgrading historical data to international standard is key to making Ukraine's subsoil potential investor ready for sure. The cooperation pact between UGS and the Geological Survey of Canada systemically translates and digitizes Soviet-era maps by implementing CIM standards and utilizing AI-driven satellite models. It simplifies exploration risks for foreign capital. Ukraine offers flexible corporate and contractual frameworks tailored to the risk appetite and operational style of any foreign enterprise. Investors can opt for contractual routes like 50-year production sharing agreement or joint operations without a new entity. Alternatively, they can establish wholly owned LLC subsidiaries for e-auctions and acquire equity stakes more than 10% to unlock legal protections. The financial threshold for entry into Ukrainian's mining sector is highly favorable, backed by a resilient almost 5 billion existing FDI equity base. The mining sector accounted for 8.3% of Ukraine's total FDI in 2025, heavily led by iron ore and high coal extraction. The official investment portal maps out close to 12 billion in future critical raw minerals opportunities, alongside 4.3 billion in immediate public-private projects, which are all placed in the investment portal. A robust matrix of international financing, comprehensive risk mitigation, and aggressive state incentives drastically lowers the risk profile for incoming capital. Projects are based by IFIs such as EBRD, IFC, EIB, and private equity funds political and risk insurances backed by MIGA, DFC, EBRD, Lloyds actively shield infrastructure complemented by state-backed tax holidays and fast-track permitting. The Special Investment Agreement framework offers powerful legal protections and state support for heavy capex industrial projects. Qualifying projects including non-coal gas mineral extraction with further processing cycle with a capex of over 12 million can receive up to 30% compensation of the state support. The framework allows investors to choose their applicable law and dispute settlement mechanism over 15-year period. State incentives are diversified across fiscal exemptions and infrastructure subsidies to maximize project profitability and lower initial setup costs. Incentives include 5-year corporate income tax exemption, full VAT and import duty exemptions on new equipment, and land tax reductions. The state also provides land leases without auctions, facilitates, I would say, and support in this, and directly compensates costs for connection to transport grids. The important note is that the CIT exemption has sector-specific limitations and is not applicable to projects in extraction for the purpose of processing and or enrichment of natural resources. The financing architecture looks like this, is segmented by project size and company scale, ensuring targeted liquidity from micro businesses to conglomerates. So we can understand that CRM projects falls directly more into IFIs in this map. The Reconstruction Investment Fund, Ukraine-US Reconstruction Fund, is a powerful 50-50 joint sovereign instrument between Ukraine and the United States designed to co-invest in high-risk, high-return sectors, engage co-investors also from other strategic countries and strategic partner countries. Managed by an independent joint board and blended finance, it focuses on commercially viable projects in CRM, logistics related to mining and strategic sectors. This is a good opportunity for Canadian investors to explore the framework of the fund and to navigate the opportunities which are available now for co-investing, because the fund is actually working on them. The European Flagship Fund is another vehicle set by European Commission as a first loss capital enabler, and also DFIs and IFIs back capital and private equity, private investors. So they're backed by 220 million in Encore public capital. This flagship platform blends public and private funds to systemically de-risk large-scale investments. The fund utilizes political risk insurance, first loss capital, and DFI co-financing. It targets private and public-private projects across including CRM, green energy, industrial modernization, and dual-use technologies. So this is something that could also be of interest for Canadian investor to navigate the opportunity, and project sponsors as well. International guarantees and localized war risk world political risk facilities have created a comprehensive safety net for static and mobile corporate assets. MIGA, so you can see that MIGA, DFC, EBRD, Lloyds provide significant backing to private insurance companies in Ukraine who actually operates these insurance products, as well as Export Credit Agency of Ukrainian from the Ukrainian side also increases their capacity to insure investments insurance. said that, I would like to also point out that current investor insurance ecosystem allows to ensure each step of investment journey. So from bringing equipment to Ukraine and ensuring safety stay in the port of Odessa, etc., and other ones, up to the ensuring the financial risks, the FDI insurance, including political and war risk insurance risks, and also the commercial property assets insurance. When you have a facility in place working, it can still be insured from damage related to war and political risks. Launched in January 2026 under the Made in Ukraine policies, expanded state war risk program offers frictionless, fast-track damage compensation administered by Ukrainian Export Credit Agency. The program removes property valuation report at the application stage, allowing entrepreneurs to self-state damage. It covers real estate and machinery up to 30 million against missile hits, shock waves, and UAV debris. As well, provided you have the contract with insurance company with applicable insurance premium you pay annually, the government of Ukraine can compensate a partial cost of this insurance premium via submission through Export Credit Agency with a limit of up to 3 million per year. The Ukraine Investment Project Portal acts as a data-driven pre-screen matchmaking pipeline connecting international capital to validated local projects. The site features 324 vetted projects worth close to $60 billion across 11 sectors based by a broader database of more than 1,000+ entries. According to the portal snapshot, the critical raw mineral sector presents 18 projects and 109 deposits valued 4.3 billion. So in case of any interest, we could provide kind of navigation and with special focus on flagship projects nowadays supported and promoted by with support of the government of Ukraine. Among them, so a very famous, very well-prepared project from BGV on graphite as a critical resource, and others, operators and project sponsors. Ukraine Invest serves as the government's official one-stop shop investment promotion office to guarantee a transparent and predictable journey for foreign capital. Established in 2018, it provides market intelligence, troubleshooting support, legally backed advocacy. It acts as a singular point of contact to facilitate state incentives, coordinate PPPs, and match investors with tailored financial frameworks. As well, we are happy to be your partner in project origination and selecting the right project fitting the profile you are looking for. Instant transparency and direct lines of communication are open for immediate exploratory consultation and project sourcing. You are more than welcome to contact our headquarters in Kyiv and also our honorable embassy and their economic division in Canada, and we will do our best to facilitate meetings and support at each step you require. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Marina. That was a really great overview of all the efforts that the Ukrainian government is taking in coordination with its partners to promote mining investment in Ukraine. It would be a perfect lead-in for our next speaker, but we're going to have one speaker join us midstream. So rather than go to Deputy Minister in our roster of speakers, we're going to go to Matt Simpson, who has on-the-ground private sector representation about a real project in Ukraine listed on the Toronto Stock Exchange, which is a model that we've talked about briefly in this presentation, and something I'd really love to see reproduced as the sector is proved out in Ukraine. So it's my pleasure to introduce the CEO of Black Iron, Matt Simpson, who I'm happy to have worked with in the past on transactions and in spreading the word about the company in Ukraine. So Matt, over to you.
Thank you, Miroslav. I just put my presentation up on the screen. Can you just give me a thumbs up if it's coming through clear?
It looks great to me, Matt.
Excellent, thank you. So Black Iron is planning to produce high purity iron ore, which is a critical mineral, also essential to rebuild Ukraine. This is a project that twice was brought to the brink of construction, only twice to have our ability to progress upset by Russia invading the country. Our plan is to initially produce 8 million tons of 68 to 69.5% grade iron ore, which is very, very high pure iron ore that reduces greenhouse gas emissions in making steel by about 30%. What makes the project so special is our proximity to existing major infrastructure, including skilled labor, power lines, rail, and deep sea ports. And it's because we are surrounded by 7 operating iron ore mines within 40 kilometers, including 2 of them that are right next door. One of them is owned by ArcelorMittal, and the other is owned by Metinvest. The economics on the project are exceptionally strong, and we have an offtake and funding agreement from Anglo American Tech, which is one of the top 5 mining companies in the world. The team consists of people that are highly experienced in building and constructing mines. My personal background has been mine construction with a company called Hatch, and then I worked for Rio Tinto, and I used to run the Iron Ore Company of Canada, which is the largest iron ore mine in North America, for a number of years before starting this company. This project prior to the war was ranked by Wood Mackenzie and CRU, which are market intelligence firms, as having the highest economics of any undeveloped iron ore project in the world. And again, it really comes back to some of the unique attributes that Ukraine has, which is excellent infrastructure with rails, power lines, ports, and relatively low cost, highly skilled labor. To zoom in on the project a little bit more, the project is located in the center of the country in Kryvyi. This is where most of the iron ore mining originally occurred in the former Soviet Union and still occurs today. Again, 7 operating mines within 40 kilometers of us. The other big operating center is in Poltava, which is several hundred kilometers north of us. So this area was largely developed for the mining sector. The rail runs only about 1 kilometer away from the property, and there's existing capacity on that rail. That rail connects to 5 different ports between about 250 and 450 kilometers. Our preferred port is at the end of the line in Plyvda, where we do have capacity to load large Cape-sized vessels, and high voltage power lines run right beside the rail that we can tie into. The project today does have about 500 million tons of proven mineral reserves that are economic. In terms of how to get the project funded, well, the initial capital is about 450 million. And then you can see the buildup on the left where there's about 10 million of working capital, about 30 million of value added tax that may or may not be required based on some of the legislation for special investment agreements, and then financing fees to pay our bankers, resulting in a total capital required of about 505 to 575 million US. Prior to the war, we did have expressions for about 350 million of debt. Anglo American is committed to invest 75 million at least in our construction. We had an engineering procurement construction firm that was looking to defer 65 million of our construction costs until after we were operational to repay. And then the balance of funding would come from a combination of royalty and or equity. The economics on the project are phenomenal. This is a very busy chart, but what's important for you to know is that at the average price for over the last 5 years, for a project that would have an initial investment of about $500 million US, we would have an after-tax net present value with a 10% discount rate of somewhere around $2.3 billion. So that is phenomenal. Normally, you look to divide the net present value by the initial capital. You hope to have a ratio greater than 1. In this case, this project would have a ratio over 4 and close to 5, and it would generate somewhere in the mid 60% after-tax internal rate of return. And again, it's primarily because of all the reasons I cited earlier, the excellent proximity to major infrastructure and highly skilled labor. This is also the most advanced foreign new mining project in Ukraine. Substantial money has been spent over the years doing all of the infill drilling work that's required to bring the ore body in compliance with NI 43-101, which is the standard that's needed for international projects. It's really that standard, or JORC. We've completed all of the engineering work. We had a feasibility study, and very recently we're updating that feasibility study in preparation for construction prior to the war breaking out. So this is a project that realistically, upon there being peace, could be in construction within around 12 to 18 months. The reason that's so important is that upon there being peace, it's essential that Ukraine has successful foreign direct investments in the mining sector, and this will be the front runner that creates the roadmap. This project over its lifespan will have about $1.2 billion invested through 2 different phases plus sustaining capital. It'll generate over $2.2 billion in tax payments to the government. It'll create over 700 jobs directly for around a 20-year period. But most importantly, it'll create a halo effect to provide comfort and confidence to other foreign investors that they too can be successful in Ukraine. Thank you, Miroslav.
Thanks, Matt. That's really relevant, and we're really grateful for sharing your experience and perspective on actually developing a mining project in Ukraine. And we love that first mover story and what it can mean for future participants. Our next presentation is going to continue to focus on Canada-Ukraine cooperation in the mining sector in Ukraine. And it's with respect to the partnership that His Excellency Plahotniuc mentioned earlier, and a better understanding of what Ukraine actually has to offer geologically. So it's my pleasure now to introduce Dr. Genevieve Marquise and Dr. Alex Zagorevsky from the Geological Survey of Canada and Natural Resources Canada. We'll speak about Ukrainian-Canadian cooperations and efforts to modernize the geological understanding of Ukraine. Take it away, folks.
Thank you. Thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Genevieve Marquis. I'm the Executive Director at the Geological Survey of Canada Central. And it's a privilege to speak alongside my colleague, Alex Zagorevsky, Senior Research Scientist. Next slide, please. Today, I want to highlight the significant progress we've made in supporting Ukraine. The Geological Survey of Canada, with its long-standing tradition of advancing geoscience research and fostering international collaboration, is committed to being a strong ally to Ukraine. And we are focused on de-risking mineral exploration and attracting investment into Ukraine's rich subsoil resources. And we will present the overview of this collaboration. Next slide, please. So in the spirit of partnership, I'm pleased to announce that we are actively collaborating with the Ukraine Geological Survey through a bilateral agreement signed last fall. This agreement aims to enhance knowledge exchange, innovative methodologies, and best practices, ultimately strengthening Ukraine's capacity to explore and sustainably develop its critical mineral deposits. Together, our combined expertise and commitment will help unlock Ukraine's geological potential for the benefit of both nations. Furthermore, thanks to a recommendation from the Embassy of Canada in Ukraine, we are leveraging the Technical Assistance Partnership funds to turn our commitment into actionable outcomes that will de-risk mineral exploration in Ukraine. And we're grateful to the NRCan Technical Assistance Partnership team for making this collaboration possible, and the NRCan Ukraine Task Team, as well as several research scientists who are committed to support this collaboration. Looking ahead, I'm confident that our partnership will enhance Ukraine's resilience, with the mineral exploration industry playing a vital role. Now, I'll hand it over to my colleague Alex, who will provide insight to Ukraine's geology and overview of our joint research collaboration. He has some key important messages for the mining industry and investors. Alex, over to you.
Thank you very much. I'm going to do a very brief overview of the geology of Ukraine. So on the left side, you can see the map, a geological map of Ukraine, and the Ukrainian shield in that pinky orange color in the center is either the host or things that derived from the Ukrainian Shield in terms of all the critical mineral deposits. On the right side, you can see a map of the titanium ores that are present in Ukraine. There are several major districts. The one that we'll be focusing will be the one on the top left. And there are several different types of titanium ores. One of the types is hosted within the bedrock, and the other one is hosted in the placer deposits in a much younger sands, which overlie the area. So if we look at the formation of titanium ores, basically what you need to do is you need to create a lot of molten rock or magma, and that'll impact the bottom of the crust. As it impacts the bottom of the crust, it'll start melting things. And as this magma traverses through the crust, it'll create its own plumbing system, eventually making it to the surface in the form of volcanoes. The titanium ores and related critical minerals such as rare earths are basically created by this plumbing system. So understanding how this plumbing system works is really key to understanding where hidden mineral resources are, which are not immediately obvious. Eventually, this magmatic system stops, cools down, and starts eroding, and then the top of it will get moved around by action of wind, water, and weathering. And as a result, you're going to concentrate some of the heavy minerals into the placer deposits, and those are the ones that are predominantly being mined for titanium in Ukraine right now. So in the top, you can see a cross-section through one of these placer deposits. It's only about 30 meters thick. In purples, you have the crystalline bedrock, which is weathered to light purple, and overlying that is the sand, which has concentrated the heavy mineral fractions, including ilmenite, rutile, and other things. So in order to try to improve the exploration framework of Ukraine and to better understand how these mineral deposits formed, and as well as where to find the hidden ones, we propose several new research areas. The first one will be to characterize the geology and mineral occurrences in the Forreston body, that's one of these plutons, and related rocks. And what this will enable us to do is to evaluate whether there are parts of the magma plumbing system which contain critical minerals which have not been explored for before. It'll also enable us to evaluate whether there are other types of critical minerals which are exposed in there and preserved, such as, for example, platinum group elements. The next research area will look at that top portion, looking at the detrital mineralogical studies of the placer deposits. So when you erode these rocks, you will concentrate not just titanium and apatite, you'll also concentrate other things like such as platinum group elements, diamonds, and other minerals, which can be exploited. And by looking at those, first of all, it'll allow us to better understand how the pluton became exposed and how it was moved around, but also whether there are any byproducts of mining that can also be utilized commercially. An aspect of this topic is also looking specifically at detrital apatite in these deposits. So apatite can be a source of rare earth elements, but its potential has not been evaluated in detail in Ukraine. So what we would like to do is evaluate the rare earth potential of apatite and see if it is commercially viable. And lastly, we're going to look at overall geological compilation and mineral potential of this area. Within the Canadian context, we have been building national prospectivity models, which are based on public geoscience data, which includes geophysical, geochemical, geological, and occurrence data, which are combined with AI. This is being currently developed for mostly bedrock regions of Canada. And what these models do is they reduce the prospectivity space and identify broad areas of high mineral potential. This may not find mineral deposits in itself, but it certainly can help infrastructure and investments, as well as highlight regulatory gaps in some of the regions. When applying this to Ukraine, we still need to evaluate whether there's sufficient public data density to conduct mineral prospectivity modeling, and we'll be working with UGS and providing training on the GSC procedures and models. There are risks associated with this approach, including sparse data for training of models, and whether these models are actually transferable to placer environments. There's also going to be a potential problem with these sparse geophysical data sets and whether there's interaction of plasters with bedrock, which may negatively impact the models. We're looking for, as part of this project, we'll be looking for bedrock and plaster samples from the Volynski and Zhytomyr region. So if you have any contacts in this region, please let us know, and please reach out to us if you have any suggestions or additional information, or if you want to chat about this project or any aspects of this. Thank you very much.
Thank you both, Drs. Marquise and Zagorevsky. It's really great to see actual on-the-ground cooperation between Canada and Ukraine happening in real time. Continuing on geology, I'm pleased to introduce now Sahiv Lysenko, who's head of the State Geological Survey of Ukraine, for the counterparty Ukrainian perspective. So, Pan Lysenko, please go ahead.
Hello, good morning for Canadian side, good afternoon for Ukrainian side. Dear colleagues, happy to see all to discuss the prospects of Ukraine-Canada cooperation in extraction, ahead, and geology. Could I share my presentation? One moment. Can you see it?
Yep, it looks good.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, switch next slide. Sorry for that. Okay, I will. Okay. First of all, I have to stress that Ukraine has a good mineral potential and historically was and is a mining state. Among the key economically prone for extraction resources are oil and gas, iron ore, titanium, graphite, lithium, polymetals. Also, Ukraine possesses some of the largest deposits in Europe regarding the list of minerals you see at the slide. The key issue is commercial effect of exploration and extraction. For some minerals as iron ore, titanium, it is of the world leaders. Regarding some others like gold, polymetals, and the potential is to be assessed under current market conditions. Next slide. To reassess such a potential, we believe will help our cooperation with Canadian GeoSurvey under agreement we have signed an action plan, like my colleague told before. We are really enthusiastic regarding this opportunity to cooperate and make joint research product acceptable for investors. Together with respected Canadian partners, we have dedicated the area of K4. It is so-called Kirsten Pluton geological area for polymetals, rare metals. Next slide. Also, you may see the maps of reflections and unexplored fields with such strategic minerals as titanium, beryllium, uranium, wolfram, rare metals, niobium, etc. Next, at slides, you may see the maps of regions of Ukraine located at Ukrainian Shield, Kropivnitska, Vinnytska, Zhytomyrska, Dnipropetrovska regions with critical minerals fields and reflections. And this, next one. These reflections are the point of future exploration and resources assessments. Also, we have some plots for auction which are already available. These are the deposits and sites across the territory of Ukraine. More information also available at the State Geological Portal. The public access is temporarily halted because of war, but on the request we can open it for provide data for potential investors. On the next slide, you can see there are some deposits which are available according to the government decree for PSA mechanism. These are uranium, titanium, vanadium, other deposits. Please note that this list is not limited by the given deposits. We have some potential to explore the others. I have to attract you to your attention as example to one of the offered for PCA deposits, Romivske in Zhytomyr region. It's complex deposits for titanium, vanadium, scandium, and zinc ores, which is rather attractive for investment, but also needs additional economics assessments. To finalize, Ukraine has a good potential, actively works in terms of legislation, practice in order to be a part of supply chains. We are friendly and open for our Canadian friends. The Ukrainian Geological Survey is also open for assistance and support. Thank you for your attention, and sorry for my slow pronunciation. We had hard night today because we had ballistic missiles for Kiev and drones. So it's sorry for my slow speaking. Thank you so much. Happy to see you all here, and thank you for your support.
Thank you, Mr. Vlasenko. It's saddening, but important to realize, what we're fighting for here. So thank you for that presentation. And we're all supporting Ukraine and you, of course. Of course, geology is an important aspect of any project, but when you find a good project, they need to be financed. So the next portion of our presentation will discuss financing and risk sharing and institutional support for projects in Ukraine. And starting off is going to be Tatiana Jumurat, Associate Director of Natural Resources, Metals and Mining at the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development, or EBRD. So Tatiana will speak about EBRD instruments and solutions available for kicking off mining in Ukraine. So Tatiana, over to you.
Good afternoon. Good morning, everyone. Can you see my screen well?
Yeah, looks like we can. If you want to go full screen, you could too.
Yeah. Can you see it well now? Yes?
Looks great.
Very good. So just a brief introduction who EBRD is for a few colleagues who potentially don't know. EBRD is a multilateral development bank. We are owned by more than 79 countries now and 2 intergovernmental institutions. Canada is also one of the shareholders. Our capital base is 34 billion. We are a AAA rated institution and we operate in around 40 countries. Ukraine is our core country by investment and activities. As you'll see, it was top 2 in terms of investment last year, but in general, in the past 4 years, EBRD has invested over 9 billion in Ukraine across the sectors, infrastructure, energy, agri, and others. What we do in mining sector in general, across the 40 countries that I mentioned, we have been investing in the sector for the past 30 years, more than 3 billion deployed. And most of those projects are private sector projects. We only had 1 or 2 state-owned companies that we have supported. We support with various instruments, be it from straight equity to debt to any mezzanine instruments. And the ticket sizes are very different between 5 and 500 million. So it depends really on the scale of the project, on the stage of the project, and partners involved. Typically, and what I call our EBRD core strategy, we are involved once the feasibility study is done. We support construction, development, finance, expansion, modernization through both debt and equity instruments. But we also have what we call the junior mining program, which focuses on projects which have discovered the resource, have a preliminary economic assessment, and are working towards PFS or feasibility study and permitting. And at this stage, junior stage, we usually provide minority equity investments or quasi-equity instruments to support companies through this development. And an important bit is we are a long-term partner. So if we were to start supporting as early as preliminary economic assessment, we'll be supporting for the next 10 years with follow-on funding as the project progresses. There just a little bit more about JUMP, our junior mining programs and the companies which are junior projects in our portfolio. Some of you will recognize Canadian listed companies here, including Euro Manganese, but these are a variety of companies in a variety of minerals. EBRD can fund all sorts of minerals apart from thermal coal. Obviously, the focus is on critical raw materials, but we recognize essentialness of all minerals for the development of Ukraine. Eligibility criteria is geographical based, so the project has to be in one of our countries. But as I said, if the holding company is listed in Canada, it's great. We have supported a number of companies listed in Canada. Use of proceeds specifically for JUMP is, as I mentioned, post mineral resource discovery, but in general, it can be for CapEx, development, and modernization. Again, we support corporates, private or listed companies, and important is to have the relevant team who has the track record and can develop those projects. And we pay a lot of attention to ESG, to responsible mining practices. We have our own environmental social policy, which is aligned with IFC's environmental social policy and looks into all sorts of engagement important for the mining sector. Just briefly for the investors, we have a 3-stage approval process, very typical for any investment style. And EBRD offers much more than just capital. We are a long-term partner. We provide follow-on, as I mentioned, debt, equity, but we also have advisory services, helping businesses operate, increase the financial, environmental practices, governance practices. We have local presence in every country where we operate. We have offices in Ukraine. Our office is very big, given the amount of investments we do. And through our presence in the projects, we provide a sort of set of approval because we have in-house technical expertise, ESG expertise, and do a very thorough due diligence. Here is just an example of several projects that we have supported. Again, you'll see some listed companies like Eldorado. In the past, we've supported DPM Metals, then Deepers Metal, Aya Gold and Silver. You'll see on this slide, but there are many more Canadian listed companies. You will not see a Ukrainian mining company here yet. We haven't done an investment project in the mining space in Ukraine for a while now, but we are actively pursuing several opportunities. And beyond finance, as I mentioned, we also provide technical assistance both on the company's level, but also on the sector level. We engage closely with the governments to review legislation, different fiscal regime, transparency, resource certification. And in Ukraine in particular, we've been working with the State Geological Survey on modernization of geological data and GeoPortal. We have completed a pilot project of digitalizing more than 6,000 books. And now we're doing a complete digitalization by looking at more than 60,000 books to be digitalized and put on the updated new GeoPortal of Ukraine Geological Survey. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Tatiana. It's really heartening to see the support that EBRD is offering companies operating in that part of the world and Ukraine in the future, now and in the future. So for our last speaker that's available currently, we're going to turn to Canadian financing partners, which is Export Development Canada, on the instruments and solutions available to Canadian companies who are exploring opportunities, exporting their services and activity in Ukraine. So it's my pleasure now to welcome Olga Volk, Senior Regional Manager for Europe, Export Development Canada. Olga, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, and very good to be here, especially that I'm currently in Canada, so taking time from our employee conference. So thank you for helping to go through the slide, and special thanks to Invest Ukraine and CUCC for putting this webinar together. I will start with a quick introduction to EDC. Next slide, please. For those not familiar with us, we're Canada's export credit agency, and as a Crown corporation, we're fully owned by the Government of Canada. At the same time, we're financially self-sustaining, which means that, like commercial banks, we go to capital markets, raise capital, so that we can then implement and support different projects globally. We do benefit from Canada's AAA credit rating, and we've been operating for over 80 years. The mandate is to support both Canadian exporters and investors, and also foreign direct investment into Canada. This is important because when we talk about Ukraine, this covers not only investment from Canada, for example, into Ukraine, but also various joint ventures that can be put together. Next slide, please. For our size, and we're present from coast to coast and have multiple locations globally, the support that we can provide, sort of in relation to Canada's GDP is quite significant. So it's over 136 billion just last year. The latest numbers that I've heard literally just half an hour ago for Europe, 16 billion. So that's across all the products that we provided just last year. This includes insurance, financing, working capital solutions, and other structured financing solutions that we provide. Next slide, please. Similarly to EBRD, ESG is at the center of everything that we do. So this encompasses corporate governance, human rights, environmental, and other assessments. So we would look at all the projects, regardless of whether they are through a tight ESG lens as well. Next slide, please. The key focus of what EDC is doing is clearly very aligned with what the Government of Canada is doing. And some of the key sectors, I'm not going to read through all these, but this is related to energy transition, critical minerals, agri-food, and others. So all of them kind of important, and that's where Canada has strong supply chains as well. Next slide, please. So if we talk about critical minerals, this is an extremely important chapter for both Canada and EDC. And needless to say that within the last number of years, due to changes in geopolitics, it became even more prominent because of the fact that Canada is a stable partner with abundant resources, but also the supply chain that can be implemented globally. And given that EDC supports both export of technology and services, this is at the core of what we do. So in 2025 alone, we supported over 30 customers and with a borrowing of close to 5 billion. And that's in this sector. On the next slide, please. So when it comes to Ukraine, I think it's worthwhile noting that EDC remained open throughout the the entire war, and I would date it back to 2014 when annexation of Crimea happened. But then when the full-scale invasion started in 22, we continued uninterrupted support. And uninterrupted support is across all the products that we have. We continue to provide insurance to all the Canadian companies who continue to do business with Ukraine. And the reason our insurance product became ever more popular is because it covers war-related risk. So this is the type of trade insurance, whereas if a Canadian company ships something and if there is a missile attack and it happens to affect the shipment, then EDC would cover it through this policy. The financing solutions that we have for Ukraine, they were, I would say, improved because typically we're open to providing both guarantees and direct lending, but the guarantees don't cover 100%. So given the risks associated with doing business in Ukraine right now in the times of wars, if we wanted to attract private capital and that of commercial banks, we had to increase our insurance guarantee coverage to 100%. So this is available to all the Canadian solutions that we offer to Canadian companies who want to operate in Ukraine. So that would be typically, for example, working capital solutions that they seek with, say, Canadian banks locally. And equally, this applies to buyer financing. So we would offer 100% guarantee on a commercial bank loan to a Ukrainian company. Also last year, the government of Canada gave the powers to EDC to implement concessional financing across a number of geographies, including Ukraine. This is a $2 billion envelope. What this means is that for sectors covered under OECD and eligible for the concessional financing, we would be able to provide more favorable terms than, for example, existing OECD pricing, given the still Category 7 rating for Ukraine or the commercial loans that are available in the market. And also to mention that historically, EDC wasn't providing financing to the defense and security sector, and now we have been given that mandate, so we are ramping up our activity there as well. Next slide, please. So the toolkit available in Ukraine includes, as I mentioned already, insurance, guarantees, and financing, and also knowledge solutions. So this means that in addition to just pure finance and instruments, we work closely with our partners, be it Trade Commissioner Services based in Ukraine and other markets, NRCan, other departments of Government of Canada, and we work together to equip Canadian companies with information they need about the market, but also the Ukrainian companies wanting to find partners in Canada. It's worth mentioning that we work closely with multinationals, so EBRD, IFC, and others, and obviously other export credit agencies, because obviously depending on the size of the project, it takes more than one financial institution to fulfill it, even though, especially during the construction phases. On EDC side, we're open also to provide financing to the feasibility stage, so earlier stage than pre-construction financing. And as well as we do corporate loans, we do project finance, and we'll look at long-term partnership. So typically, if we land, then we would hold loans on our balance sheet. Next slide, please. So I think to summarize, all I want to say is that we are open for business in Ukraine. We're looking to partner right now before waiting for the war to finish. We want to help Ukraine build back better. And basically, if there are any questions, we have a dedicated mailbox for Ukraine. So there's a number of individuals in organization monitor it closely so that we can provide a very swift response. Thank you. And if there are any questions, happy to address.
Well, yeah, can I just follow up with that very quickly? Is there an enterprise maturity level for companies that are exporting that below which EDC is not going to look at, or it starts looking at? Just because a lot of the junior mining companies that we're thinking about, are exploring, are going to be, looking for credit. Is there like a cutoff that you start looking at for that?
I think we do have experience of dealing with junior miners, so that's not an issue per se. What we are looking at is the track record and the ability of the management team and the ability of the company to actually take the project off the ground. So that's first and foremost what we will be looking at.
That's really helpful. Thank you for that. Thanks, Olya, for that overview of EDC and the support available for Canadian investors. I do want to say that we were expecting the Deputy Minister of the Economy, Agriculture, and Environment of Ukraine today for a Ukrainian. Yes.
Sorry, Miroslav. He just joined.
Okay, perfect. We have now Yehor Perelin. We have a few minutes to go to him. I think this is a really important topic to cover. So thank you, Deputy Minister Perelin. We're going to hear quickly about Ukraine's opportunities in critical minerals through the U.S.-Ukraine Reconstruction Investment Fund, which is a topic that's been covered a lot in mass media and a discussion, including Canadian mining and here at Fasken on my firm. But we rarely get a Ukrainian view of it, so it's my great pleasure to introduce Deputy Minister Perelin. Thank you very much for joining. It's all yours.
Miroslav, thank you so much, colleagues, friends. Thank you. I see some very, very good and familiar names here as well. So it's a pleasure to be here. Look, I will try to be very pragmatic and very concise. Ukraine's not an easy country to do business in. You know that. I'm not going to open up something new for you here, But let's look at some of the very, very strongly underpinning fundamental factors. First of all, Ukraine was a country that used to be very, very active in the titanium sphere. For what am I talking about? Ukraine until 2021 was actually a producer and the exporter of titanium sponge. So if you take the Zaporozhye titanium magnesium plant, it actually it had a nameplate capacity of 10,000 tons per year, but in 2021 it operated about 5,000 tons. Titanium chloride cycle, classical processing, titanium sponge production, good standards, although very, very ineffective production cycle for energy inefficiency. Very simply, reason was very, very simple. It was the first titanium magnesium plant built and deployed in the Soviet Union. But nevertheless, Ukraine had the full cycle. You had ilmenite extraction, mining, concentrate production, slag production, titanium chloride production, chlorination, conversion, production of titanium sponge, and then we even had slabs and billets production. So basically, Ukraine was actually a full-scale integrated mining and processing country in terms of titanium. Ukraine also had two chemical plants that did sulfuric conversion or processing into titanium dioxide for pigment production. So look, you had the classical industry for titanium. Here you still have over 30 viable greenfield and brownfield deposits all across the country that can be taken online and that can be that are at various stage of readiness. Some are brownfield and exhausted, some are currently in operation but are, I would say, halfway down through their life cycle, and some are pure greenfields that require to go in, do the homework, do a lot of JORC or National Instruments feasibility study level, etc., etc. That's one story. Second story is that, look, Ukraine was a hydrometallurgical country, and not a bad one, actually. Ukraine used to extract, because of the polymetallic and the polymineral groups of deposits that Ukraine had, especially of ilmenite, rutile, zircon, what could you do? You could convert zircon into zirconium metal and then extract hafnium from the zirconium metal. Ukraine did exactly just that, and these production facilities were actually operational until 2002, 2004, I would say. Plus, Ukraine was a strong graphite player in the Soviet Union and a uranium extractor. I'm not going to mention metallurgy, classical metallurgy like iron ore, etc., etc., but I can tell you that it is a classical business for Ukraine. So, what are the opportunities? The opportunities are, first of all, there are a number of explorations that were done originally in the Soviet Union in the 60s, 70s, and some in the 80s. Are they viable or good? Probably they are not something that a Western investor would expect. But are they something that can get you the right ballpark figure or the right kind of ballpark direction? Yes, because you can understand what the morphology, what the architecture of the geological base of Ukraine is like. Ukraine sits on a crystalline formation. Actually, it sits on the Ukrainian crystalline shield, which is an ancient geological formation that actually is basically the foundation of Ukrainian mineral wealth. And one of the ideas is that Ukraine was a hydrometallurgical and a critical, back when there was no such term as critical minerals. So basically when Ukraine was a hydrometallurgical operator and actually an extractor of a number of these rare metals and what we call critical minerals today, the only reason Soviet Russia and Soviet Union scrapped all of this was because of security reasons in terms of geopolitics. When Russia opened up the Kolsky Peninsula, the Kazakhstani deposits, and some other deposits after Siberia, after the Ural Mountains. So some in Siberia, some Ural Mountains after, but as long as they are after the past the Ural Mountains. So the logic was move away from the European border. So unfortunately, that was when Ukraine lost a lot of its kind of Soviet-era processing power. But the geology that used to be done by the Soviets remained intact. We believe that this geological archive that is currently being actually digitized and that is going through the process of being kind of reprocessed, rethought, reappraised, and we have a lot of partner countries that are helping us out, but probably I would say I would like to highlight EBRD as an institution that has kindly agreed to finance the digitization of the archive, of the geological archive. So in 2 years, we expect a lot of these materials to be fully digitized. At the same time, will digitalization solve anything? No, it will just give us an opportunity to work through some of the files and materials on a computer in a digital format. We need still to think about converting these to modern, acceptable geological standards. GRISPRO, JORC, National Instruments, choose what you want. I understand the way the Western world is built. You need economically visible, economically compliant, good level standards so that you can raise capital, so that you can make the project bankable. So in our opinion, a very, very important factor is providing the necessary guidance and the necessary investor, I would say, the necessary investor kind of support for an investor to enter Ukraine and actually go through the very difficult licensing processes, which we are trying to streamline, go through a number of issues and hurdles in maybe getting a geological exploration on track. And we are working actually, for example, with our American partners on getting a program to map out and actually do a more in-depth exploration and bankability level project preparation facility for critical minerals that sit in the 3 regions where the Ukrainian crystalline shield formation is situated. So that's kind of the logic that we are going through. And we believe that by doing that 2 to 3 year long project preparation facility, we can actually bring 10, 20, 30 good greenfields onto the table that can be actually viable for market operators and investors, both junior and major. One of the logics is that Ukraine, from the Soviet Union, it inherited a number of what we call not all deposits are deposits. Some, actually a majority of them, a vast majority of them are ore occurrences. So one of the ideas is to go after the ore occurrences and basically do the conversion, do the necessary additional exploration, do the control drilling, do the coordinate conversions, and basically the remapping of the coordinates, and of course the additional 3D modeling work and resource and reserves appraisal and evaluation. And if that can be done, out of the 100, 120, 130 ore occurrences that might pose an interest for potential investors, we believe that we can achieve a success rate of about 10, 15, 20%. So if out of those 120 on average ore occurrences that we have in the country, we can convert 20 into viable deposits to take onto the licensing process, this opens up massive opportunity, in our opinion, for Western investors into Ukraine. At the same time, we offer the capability to invest in Ukrainian mining through a special regime that we call the product sharing agreement, which was tried and tested in a number of countries like Kazakhstan, Philippines, Azerbaijan. It's not an ideal instrument. It is an instrument more used by the oil and gas industry because of the fixed and more homogeneous nature and the monoproduct nature of natural gas, for example. But still, we're trying to kind of in an experimenting pilot fashion to apply this instrument to hard rock mineral extraction in Ukraine and processing. So we are experimenting with the licensing regimes in order to bring more value to the investor, so that there is a reason for the investor to come to Ukraine. Also, you have to take into account that Ukraine's proximity to Europe and a pretty highly educated engineering workforce is a definite plus for any project that you undertake. And the fact that, for example, here graphite can be mined in open pits in Ukraine, this is also not a bad story with, I would say, Western-based investors that need the European market, which is 100% dependent at the moment on processed spherical graphite, spherized graphite. So basically, and anode production actually as factors. That actually, if you take all of the cathode, anode elements, the European Union is highly, for example, highly dependent. So this creates an opportunity for Ukraine to be used as a platform for both mining and processing in one location to actually target the European market. This is an ideal play for Canadian, Australian, American, British investors who actually want to have a power play on the European continent, because they will have a definitive market with all the gigafactories and all the consumption there. As long as you can get the conversion in Ukraine. And the conversion can be gotten in Ukraine. At the moment, the only bottleneck, in our opinion, is war. But even that can be managed in Western and Central Western regions. So I definitely advise you to talk to us. I definitely advise you to reach out. We work very closely with a lot of partners from America, from Europe. Europe has actually, the European Union has designated a graphite project of a private company here, a large private conglomerate. The European Union, under the EU CRM Act, has designated the Balachivka graphite deposit as strategic for the European Union. So this kind of proves that even during war, you can have a deposit and the mining project be selected as strategic by European Commission level decision-making body. And actually, this shows that Ukraine is kind of politically viable and even economically as well, because such designation cannot happen without an economic calculation. And last but not least, you probably might have heard that the American corporation, company that is owned largely by DFC and a number of institutional investors called TechMet. TechMet is actually entering Ukraine with a lithium project where they won a production sharing agreement, a PSA tender. So this is also something that adds to the bankability. And we have such instruments as, for example, the U.S. Ukraine Reconstruction Investment Fund, which is basically a fund, a private equity fund operated by two sovereign partners, used to make the first move investment or the first loss equity kind of piece. So please feel free to reach out to us. You can submit for example, the U.S. Ukraine Reconstruction Fund or the European Flagship Fund. They are absolutely politically agnostic. So and geopolitically as well, as long as you don't do business with Russia or Belarus or you do not have strong ties to China, for example, you're very, very welcome. And actually, the position of our American friends and European friends that they would like to do more business and more coalition investment with Canadian business, Australian business, British business, etc., etc. So the logic is we gotta use these instruments on a more wider kind of scale. So please feel free to reach out to us. We'll be very, very happy to provide additional information and walk you through some of the ideas that we have. Thank you.
Wow, Deputy Minister Peterlehan, that was excellent. Thank you for your enthusiasm and knowledge. We thought there would be a little bit more coverage of URIF, but I do want to take this opportunity to say that Fasken has done some work with our agency partners in the U.S. We have some great perspectives there, so you can see that on the YouTube channel. And I think you just talked yourself onto our panel next year, so thanks for that. With that, we do have some time. I know people are going to be running up against other commitments, but we do have a couple of questions in the chat that I'm going to pose to the group. And if you need to drop off, you are welcome to do so on the webinar. But with the panel that we have assembled, I think it's worthwhile to put the questions the audience had here. So I'm going to paraphrase one of the questions we had here. And it's from one of our audience members in Sweden, and it's in the context specifically of Swedish and Ukrainian research and development, but I think we can see the pace of development in AI militarily and technologically in Ukraine advancing more rapidly than everyone ever expected. And we have sort of outdated systems in mining exploration. And maybe this is best posed to Genevieve, Alex, or Serhii. Are you aware of any research collaborations that are using AI or other technologies to enhance our ability to understand geological models and 3D visualization of resources?
Yes, Alex presented in his slide a concept that we developed at the Geological Survey of Canada to enhance our understanding of certain ore systems and some commodities for mineral deposits. And yes, we're using AI. We have different AI methodologies. It depends on the type of data that we have. One approach, and I believe the slides that Alex presented with prospectivity modeling, it was based on natural language processing. So how we've done that is that we scan the compendium of knowledge and we geo-reference the information on the intel that we had for deposits or type of deposits, and then with natural language processing, we were in position to offer a depiction of the methodology. That's one model. We have other model based on AI, and we also have collaboration with world-class AI academic institutions such as the Mila Institute in Montreal. So they are also helping us to enhance our AI capacity in prospectivity modeling. So we have full presentation on prospectivity, mapping, and AI. So this is a very, very brief overview.
Perfect. And I think the context of the question was sort of framed from Sweden, but this is a Canadian-Ukrainian panel, but are we aware of other international partners that are doing the same kind of work in Ukraine? Or
I am not. I am in my duties. I'm also the connection for the international collaboration for the Geological Survey of Canada. I'm aware that other surveys would like to contribute, but they're not as advanced as the GSC, the Geological Survey of Canada, for AI and prospectivity mapping. So at this point, I'm not aware of any other surveys in the world who is in position to offer that level of support.
That's great. I think that speaks really well to Canada's partnerships with Ukraine. I think one of the questions in the chat we can pose to Deputy Minister Peterlihan is, you mentioned it briefly in your remarks about downstream processing, and one of the bottlenecks is geology is one thing, but actually getting minerals out of the ground and turning them into useful materials is a totally different story. The question is sort of framed as, are there legal and tax incentives for downstream processing capabilities in Ukraine as well, other than just sort of encouraging mining exploration and investment?
Actually, a very good question. Thank you, Miroslav. I believe that actually midstream processing is the biggest bottleneck of the Western world of today, and I stand by this, belief very, very firmly. We've lost. I've actually at Resourcing Tomorrow last year. I think I was quoted like a number of times when I said that we've lost to China in our in our own game of capitalism in that sense, But listen, Ukraine actually is trying to work on a processing, I would say, processing stimulatory or stimulative kind of program and a number of instruments. We have created something we call industrial parks. So industrial parks, they can benefit from a number of, first of all, they can benefit from incentives in terms of importing machinery and technologies for processing, so you can be tax exempt on a number of positions. Second is we propose a number of special regimes at these industrial parks, but these would have to be talked through with our Ukraine Invest team. But that is a possibility. The thing is that we are actually, as a government, we are considering, we are trying to work on a cluster approach. So now that we understand that we can use the industrial park system for a local, I would say, more segmented or controlled manufacturing or processing. One of the ideas is to take this kind of legal framework and apply it to the areas or regions or clusters where we have the actual mining to stimulate processing right there on the spot. And also one of the ideas is we are considering working on a change to our law, to our legal system, to the law on product sharing agreements, to actually allow for processing to be included in the production sharing agreement framework. If that happens, that will open up additional opportunities to kind of enjoy the PSA regime that it offers. So to make the answer short, yes, we have a number of incentives. Yes, we have a good enough project, and if we have the possibility to get some major investors into the country, we can also probably actually use a bespoke approach to creating an industrial park right there on the ground where the upstream extraction happens, where the mining happens, and then to actually create an industrial park right there in that zone to stimulate the miner to enter the processing game. So we can actually do that. The problem right now for us is more getting the bankability right, getting the projects promoted right, and actually getting the first couple of movers to start building. And we are very close to that. I think with TechMet in lithium, with BGV, with the strategic status of the European Union, and with their graphite project moving along into definitive feasibility study level, we think that at least 2-3 projects, and we have a major Azerbaijani conglomerate that has entered and bought out some titanium assets called Nexol. It's a massive natural resources and telecom and other business operator from Azerbaijan. And so we basically think that if we get these 3 directions right, this will pave the way for the market to open and for more players to come in.
That's awesome. I think that's a great way to end this. I know there are a couple of questions that we left in the chat. I would encourage people to either reach out to the chamber, me, or Ukraine Invest directly to see if those can get answered. But I think we'll end it there. So thank you to everyone for making time for this presentation. It was excellent, thoughtful, and I think really reflects well on Canada and Ukraine as partners for the future of mining. I think I'm encouraged by the depth of expertise and commitment represented here today. And these conversations and forums are essential to building practical partnerships and turning it into reality to support long-term reconstruction, modernization, economic growth, and of course, victory. So I'd just like to end by thanking Ukraine Invest for putting this together and the Canada-Ukraine Chamber of Commerce. And of course, the Embassy of Ukraine in Canada for their support, and the Deputy Minister's Ministry of the Economy, Agriculture, and Environment for their support. I'd also like to thank everyone who took the time. It was a long webinar, but I think it was excellent for joining us and contributing your questions and interest. There's a lot of expertise among our audience as well, so please act on that. Reach out to Ukraine Invest, the Chamber, and each other to further investment and development in the sector. And we look forward to a strong economic future for Ukraine and the role that Canada will play in it. So thank you. Slava Ukraini.
Героям слава!
Героям
Thank you so
слава!
much. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
До побачення.